All right, welcome everybody. My name is Joe Paparella. I'm the Executive Vice President for Local 36, and today we have with us Joe Chisholm, Vice President, and Alethea Brooks, who serves on the Discipline Committee with Joe. We're going to have our first roundtable discussion. We're going to talk about what's involved with the discipline process, how to be a good employee, and what to do if you get in trouble. So from there, why don't we take it with Joe and give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Joe Chisholm once again. I was first elected to the executive board in 2010 and been serving you guys and helping you navigate the process of discipline. I was appointed to the job in 1991 and I retired in 2019, wagon driving engine 23. And I got involved with the union because my dad was a part of the union when he was on the job in the 70s. And he always stated that whoever deals with your money, that's who you should deal with. And I've held various positions within the union before I got on the executive board. And I enjoy what I do, helping others navigate this process.
And you're good at it too, so that's helpful. And Alethea?
Hi, been on the job for 12 years. Joined the discipline committee because Joe bugged me a lot for a while. He basically said we're here to help, and that's what I like doing. So help people navigate this system that is so foreign, hopefully, to most of you.
So we don't want to have to use this committee, obviously, but how do we be a good employee? What do we do to avoid the discipline process?
Well, I always say if you're only going to read one book only, the order book is essentially the Bible, the bread and butter of what we are supposed to do and not supposed to do. So it has everything in there from showing up on time so that you're not AWOL, and if you are potentially going to be late, the steps that you need to take for that, and so much more. So read it. Follow it. It will keep you out of trouble if you do that.
I can concur more with that. Like I said, that book will help you, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Alethea. Also, we have Alfonso Doctor. He's at Engine 23, number 3. Firefighter John McKinnon, Truck 16, number 3. Retired Fire Inspector Calvin Walden, or your shop steward. And if your shop steward need information, they can reach out to us.
So who do we represent?
We represent everyone on the fire department from the rank of firefighter probationer to captain. When you're a probationer, your rights are limited because you can still be terminated by the department for any infraction. But we will make sure that process is handled correctly, and hopefully as a probationer you don't get in any trouble.
So it's important to understand as a probation, your rights are very limited and they can fire you almost at will.
Right.
And then we do not represent recruits while they're in the academy. We don't sign up members anymore until once they've completed graduation.
That's correct.
They still get the insurance, but they don't officially become a union member until you've graduated the academy. And so what rights do we have as a union employee if we're involved in the discipline process?
Okay, well, we pass out these cards at every class that we sign up. Don't worry about the date on there, but all the information on here is what you need to know. It's called Know Your Rights, your disciplinary rights from the department. And also, if you don't know your rights, as Alethea stated, the order book. You got anything else to add?
I think you said it pretty clearly,
Okay.
but your rights are very important to us, and so that's why we make ourselves available to you most of the time.
Right.
So just give us a call if you can't get access to the order book or you don't have the card. It is what we're here for.
So what do we do once we find out that we're in trouble? How do we find out that we're in trouble?
Okay, so you get your initial notification. It's called your 3A. You are served by a battalion fire chief or acting captain acting battalion fire chief in some cases. That is when the department is notifying you that they've become aware of an infraction that you've done. We have a list of infractions. So Order Book Article 7 has basically every single thing about the discipline process itself. But usually in your 3A, there's a list of infractions. And usually we have like AWOL, neglect of duty, insubordination, incompetence, etc. Read them. There are 9 of them, and then there's a couple of sub ones that they'll also serve you with. And so that's just, again, the department saying that we know that you did something. They have 75 days to serve you from your infraction to serve you with the 3A. It gets a little murky because a lot of the time the department doesn't find out immediately when you've done whatever it is you've done. And so they have 75 days from the time they find out to serve you. So that's the 3A.
And what is it like being served? What does that look like?
So a lot of the times, this is other parts. A lot of people, when they get served, they don't want to sign the paperwork. So that the chief comes and says that essentially this is your 3A, notifying you that you're going to be placed on charges for whatever it is. And then a lot of people don't want to sign. That's not the important part. You can sign that part. That part doesn't mean like you're accepting the hours or you're accepting the charges that the job is giving you. Basically, that's just saying that you are acknowledging that you're being given this paperwork. So it's not accepting charges. It's not anything. The next time you get served your 3B, that's the important part of knowing where to sign on that paperwork.
So what does the process look like in between the 3A and the 3B?
So after you get served the 3A, call us. Like immediately. You can be at work still. You can actually still be in the chief's office if they called you down, and just give us a call if you have any questions. So what you're calling us for is basically to give us the story, full and honest story, and we then go do research of our own. So let's say it's something simple like an AWOL charge. A lot of people are put on AWOL charges, unfortunately. Usually the average for the first offense is an official reprimand, but if it's like your 10th offense, hopefully not in reality, you can look for a lot of hours up to termination. So it's our job to make sure that the job is essentially giving you the average amount of time. So like I said, if it's your initial, it's usually just a written reprimand. But if for you somehow it's your initial and you're being given 500 hours, it's our job to make sure that the job does what they're supposed to do and just give you what the average is. So that's why you're calling us, because we have to essentially look up similar charges that you've been put on.
Okay. And after you've gone through that and you've notified us, and now it's time to get the 3B.
The department has 60 days to give you the 3B. Once the 3B comes, still contact us. Let us know exactly what the charge is. They're going to have specifications. We want you to sign it, that you received it. Check the box on there. Make sure you check the correct box that states that you want to challenge it or you want to accept it. We've been having a lot of people accepting stuff unnecessarily. You can challenge it. Let us know. We can advise you, and then you can go back and talk to compliance and change your mind if you want to.
10 days.
10 days. Also, the department FedExes these charges. So we want to make sure that everybody has the correct address on your Form 9, because the department does not require a signature for these FedEx deliveries. All they do is drop them on your porch, and that's receipt of delivery. So we want to make sure that you guys have your correct address. When you get those 3Bs in the mail, you still have to sign them, you still have to check the box, and you have to send it back to compliance.
So in between the 3A and the 3B, does does somebody interview you? Do you have to type a special report? How do they find the facts?
So this is where it gets a little murky and a lot of people don't understand fully. Again, we'll keep it simple. AWOL, right? So 3A, you're served. You give us a call. You state everything that it is. If it's a battalion chief conference or a deputy chief conference, those are much easier. So essentially, you're gathering all of the facts. So AWOL is simple. The battalion fire chief or the person who puts you on charges, your officer, whoever, has to ask compliance for your history, right? So if you don't have a history, if you've never been put on charges before, they'll come up with nothing. So you're essentially petitioning the battalion chief when you have a battalion chief conference saying, hey, like I don't have anything on my record. I overslept my alarm. The power went out. Whatever it is, that's what you're petitioning. You don't have to type up anything for most circumstances. But you have to explain yourself and why. So that's the whole point of battalion chief conference or deputy chief conference. You honestly feel like you are, and I've had people who are super honest and just be like, hey, so I did do this, but I don't feel like I deserve this many hours. Or I'm actually innocent and I don't deserve any hours. But a lot of the time when you're guilty, being honest about it is probably the best thing. And that usually gets you less time if you're honest. But again, you have to present facts, proof. A lot of the time, a lot of people will have character witnesses. You can even do that for battalion chief conferences and deputy chief conferences. So.
And also, too, if you're asked to type a special report for any infraction, be factual. Put down all pertinent information, because sometimes that special report will go against you at a hearing if you put down the least possible information. And then you want to come into your battalion or deputy conference and want to explain more. Put it all down on paper. That way they can see it, and you won't have to explain that much at your hearing.
And when I'm in the battalion chief conference or the deputy conference, do I get representation?
Yes.
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
So basically what I do, everybody's a little bit different, but I like to give you a call beforehand. You tell me everything, and then I like to meet you about 15 minutes before the battalion chief or deputy chief conference, and then go over everything. Just clarify, make sure you fully understand what it is you're doing, what it is you're saying, and just simple things, right? Yes or no, sir, respect. This is a chief that you are sitting, battalion chief or deputy chief. So it's reminding you of the simple things that you need to be doing when you're in this conference. And then I tell you your like the average amount of hours, or just a 169 that when we did our research we found, and then I also show the battalion fire chief. I give him they call it the U numbers, but it's just a reference for him or her to see that hey, the average is this amount of time and this is exceeding it. So
am I able to represent myself, or do I need you guys there?
So technically, yes, anybody can represent themselves, but we highly recommend that you give us a call. We know the ins and outs of the discipline process as a whole, and we want to make sure you get treated fairly and equally. That's why we're here. That is our job. So we recommend that you call us.
And if I'm not comfortable with either of you, am I able to use my shop steward or...
So there are 4 of us who took specific classes for this entire process. And then, like I said, we do have the years of doing this. But you can have other people represent you. It's a different process, though. They have to be essentially trained by
right. So we gave a shop steward class, so those guys should be able to handle it. Just give us a call. Yeah. And then we'll talk and get it all sorted out.
So after we've gone through the conferences and we've pleaded our case, what happens next after we leave the chief's office?
So we say don't take anything that's said in the chief's office at face value. You wait until you receive papers with the official charge, right? Whether it's a reprimand or hours, that's what you wait for. Once you wait for those hours, again, give us a call. We have all these things. Scan it, email it to us. Most people have our email addresses. So let's say that you pled your case and you felt like you were innocent and the chief said no, and they're giving you whatever amount of time or hours that you're given. So you have 10 days to say, I'm disagreeing with this, the battalion chief conference decision, and you have 10 days to put that in writing, sign that you want to challenge that decision. This can go all the way up to the fire chief. So if you truly feel that you're innocent, we will absolutely fight, right by your side. And you can disagree or challenge every decision on up. But most people don't take it that far, and we get, everybody a fair treatment. And most people understand.
Okay. So let's say I get a call from Internal Affairs. What's that about?
Internal affairs can be anything from a citizen's complaint, a complaint from another member, or a member being arrested or charged with something. They can also be given a criminal summons, and they would have to report that to Internal Affairs. So, whenever you are called to Internal Affairs, you have to go. Internal Affairs do not give you advance notice. They wait to see if you are at work that day. Then they will send out an email to say, come to Internal Affairs. Once you get that call, give one of us a call, and we'll be your representative down there.
And if you're not available right then, do I have to go on my own?
No, we also, since COVID started, Internal Affairs has been doing phone conferences. So any of us can be available via phone and be your representative that way.
Do they have if you're not available though, is there a certain time period that they can reschedule?
So they do have a time frame that they can reschedule. It's literally been up to and greater than a week, especially when COVID was crazy. But they try to make sure that you're given that right. There are you can also get called for being a witness.
Right.
So just remember, it's not a lot of people have that fear initially, like, I did something. It's just that you may have witnessed something and they need.
And also Internal Affairs usually states when you go in there that you are the subject of this investigation or you're not subject of this investigation. So sometime when you go in there, they'll ease you a little bit and say you're not the subject of this investigation.
Okay. What else you guys got?
Okay, so once you go to Internal Affairs, they're going to have you type a special report down there. They're going to have you fill out a new Form 9 down there. They're going to let you know that your interview will be recorded. They're going to interview you. The first time you go down is your initial interview. They're not going to record that. They're just going to have you do the special report, Form 9, give you some information and tell you your duty status, and you're going to have to call down every day. Once your infraction has been adjudicated, that's when they bring you back down for your follow-up interview, which will be recorded. They're going to give you 2 pieces of paper to sign, along with whoever represents you. There's going to be a confidentiality form and a warning and assurances form, which means you will have to tell the truth. All the questions that they're going to ask you, 95% of the time, they already know the answers. So they're asking these questions to test your truthfulness. When you're down there, answer the question asked. Do not have to give any additional information. So just keep it short, yes, no, or just answer that direct question.
And be honest.
Yes.
Because that's usually what people get charged with, just the dishonesty.
Right.
Okay. So let's say something happened on my days off and I got a DUI or I got locked up or had an interaction that I know is going to cause me issues on the job. What are the first steps that I should take once that happens?
Yeah, if you get arrested or anything like that, you have to notify the department. It's not necessarily meaning you have to notify anybody in your chain of command. You can call directly to Internal Affairs. They have an answering machine that they check hourly to make sure, and then they will be in touch with you. But as long as you notify somebody on the department, you can. If you can't get in touch with your station, you can call communications, and then they'll pass it on. But as long as you notify somebody on the department.
Right. And who should my second call be to?
Yes, absolutely.
And how are you going to help me there?
So it depends on, again, if you're under arrest, there's only a certain amount that we can actually help you with. But once you get out, usually we want the story, right? Again, back to the same thing that we did before. We look at comparables. So DUIs are pretty standard. Those are simple, but any assault charges, anything that could potentially, essentially look bad against the department, that's what we need to know so that we can start our research nice and early, because those are usually the cases that take the longest and have the most hours.
And then once that process is done, Internal Affairs writes up their report. They send it upstairs to the Office of Compliance and the appropriate Assistant Fire Chief. That's where they will get together and decide if any type of discipline comes of it. If it's something that requires a battalion conference up to 72 hours, a deputy conference up to 120, anything over 120 or more will be a trial board. If you get a trial board, you don't have to, but we want you to contact us because the union will provide you with an attorney to handle that case. Very important to know that the attorneys that we have are very knowledgeable in handling all our discipline. But you can always get your own attorney, but we advise against that because some outside attorneys are not up to speed with the administrative hearing that we have.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the trial board process?
Again, order book. It's all in here. Who is going to be there to, I don't want to say judge you, but essentially
Right.
that's what it
You're
is.
sitting in front of a panel, correct?
Yes,
Right.
you are.
What is that panel made of?
To be exact, you have, that's the discipline board. Chiefs and captains.
You're all cocky there. You thought you had it.
Right, I know. I was like, right here.
Right.
No.
So it'll be 2 battalion fire chiefs and two captains.
Okay.
Yes, 4 panel members now. And you'll be represented by an attorney. The department will have an attorney. There'll be a court reporter there and somebody from Office of Compliance to facilitate everything.
And one of us.
And one of us will be there. That's right.
Yeah, those are usually, you're prepared well by the lawyer. So
Yes.
it's not and us. So it's not like surprise. You're very prepared. They ask you the questions usually beforehand. You get witnesses, everything that you need. We had citizens represent people as well.
Right.
So like,
So how do I usually end up down the trial board path versus a battalion fire chief conference?
Let's be any infraction that's 120 hours or greater, or the department deems your infraction was severe enough to go to a trial board. That's when we get together with the attorneys and pull out all of our comparables to see what other members have been getting. But it's still the department's right to have you go to a trial board instead of somewhere else. But we're going to make sure the process is done correctly and defend you to the best of our ability.
So it could be, so a lot of people ask that, right? Like, how does it go that far? It could be something as you have 20 AWOLs on your record, right? It doesn't have to be assault or arrest or something, a DUI. It could be as simple as you haven't showed up to work 10 times and they see it's been within a year.
Okay, that's a good subject there. So you said we have multiple infractions. How does our discipline handle my first infraction and then my third infraction? What's that look like?
We have progressive discipline. So when done correctly, and I say this, it has to be done correctly. The department's whole job is to not get you in trouble, right? So that's why I said that this order book is everything. They start off with, hey, like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, it's just initial reprimand. It goes on your file for 3 years. They're saying, hey, we've now told you, we've disciplined you, we've read this specific order book or the specific bulletin with you on what you are not supposed to be in that behavior. Usually when it's the similar or same behavior happens again, that's when you get served hours. So 12, 24, usually less than 72 unless it's kind of, crazy. And then the job's like, hey, so we gave you that initial notification, essentially educating you on why you should not be doing this, and you did it again. So now this hopefully will set you straight.
And that's why we advise our members to contact us
Yes.
to make sure that you're being served with the appropriate penalty. Because sometimes the department makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And we're here to help correct those mistakes.
Absolutely.
Anything else before we wrap up?
I think that's it.
That's
All right.
why-
So I think it's important to remember that Local 36 protects your professional rights. And that being said, we're professional firefighters, and we expect professional behavior from both our members, from ourselves, and also from management to make this process go smoothly when it does occur. We're here to protect the process, most importantly, and ensure your rights as you go through and navigate the discipline process. So we thank you for sitting in and listening to our first little roundtable discussion. We hope to have a few more of these in the future, discussing different topics. I think this is a good jumping off point to say, okay, now I've been called down to CQI. How do I get representation? What's that look like? What's that process look like? So that might be our next topic that we talk about, and we look forward to meeting with some more people to discuss that. So thank you to Joe and Alethea for their time, and we'll see you on the streets.
Bye.
Bye.